Ori no Yacht Ganbare Nippon Challenge, simply known as Yacht Racing Game, 1999. It's a game that's based on the yacht racing sports, a very popular water sports event that is usually held across the world within different regions, but it is popular within Japan. And this game would pretty much act as a simulation experience that features a few different game modes, from a championship to ranked events and even practice modes, so that you can get familiar with the controls and the whole emphasis around the game. Throughout each of the races, you're pretty much on an open water kind of set where you can travel long distances that are mainly based offshore and can last for hours at a time. And you'll even find in this game that the races do generally last quite a while, because your goal is to race against other opponents that are also in their own yachts, and you have to reach the checkpoints before they do and get to the finish line first. But you do have to bear in mind that it's not like a typical racing game, as there are a lot of other factors that will come into play that will actually go against you or can hinder your progress or even help you move forward, depending on the different situations and circumstances. And a lot of it has to do with the current or the tide of the lake, river or the seafront that you're racing on, but also the weather effects, because you also have to play in mind with the unique weather dynamics that were for its time very realistic, as the wind direction and even the overall weather can change as you race. That can also slow you down or even help you to speed up. Now, you do have a team with you on each of the yachts, and they all have different tasks that you have to give orders to. Now, while the game is in Japanese, there is buttons that you can press with the likes of the shoulder buttons or even the square buttons, and you can give different directions or objectives to other people that are part of your team. So they all have specific tasks in mind. Some of them will be raising the likes of the masts or even the sails themselves to actually try and help you to speed up. Now, at the same time, it's all down to timing, really, because if the current is starting to go against you, you have to put the sails down, because you can find yourself stranded, and I found that myself many times from the time I spent playing the game. You would get so far, then you would hit a strong current, or the weather would completely change, where the wind would change the direction, and it left you completely just stuck in the one spot and you couldn't move anywhere. And trying to figure out how to get yourself out of that rut can be quite tricky, because what it also does is that it allows your opponents to literally get further ahead and build up a massive lead against you, which can make it almost impossible to catch up if you don't know what you're doing. And for most people coming in, especially casual gamers like myself, really won't know what we're doing here at all. This game is definitely based more around the enthusiast or the hardcore dedicated player that understands the sport in general and knows what to do. And to be honest, I didn't realise how popular the game actually is on the PlayStation, seeing as though it only released in Japan. It was very rare, and I never really heard about it until the last while, as I had quite a few followers or viewers reaching out wanting me to do a video on the game. But then when I went to do a bit of research, I see that there is a lot of other YouTubers or streamers starting to play it now as well. So obviously it does have some popularity surrounding it. People do often be asking for it, so it does appeal to quite a few people out there, but obviously for fans of the sport. It's an interesting one, but I will admit it's very challenging. Like, if you're just coming off the back of playing typical racing games, you won't find it to be straightforward at all. It doesn't really hold your hand trying to ease you into the experience. There's so many different things to do that you can become overwhelmed, but the fact is that you can be left stranded if you make wrong decisions, or you raise the sails or you don't raise them at all, and if you get caught in a current or even the wind or whatever, or a storm, it can often frustrate you, which could probably lead you to quit, which I found that to be the case quite a few times, because I really couldn't get myself out of the rut that I was in. I was just completely just left stranded in open water, and anything I did was to no avail, because you'd get so close to the next checkpoint only to be stumped. It's like as if there was an invisible wall against you. That's what it felt like. But really what it was is that the currents or the tide had changed, and no matter what you did, you couldn't get to that checkpoint. What it did was it kept pushing you further and further and further away. Even if you tried to loop around or tried to use the wind to your advantage to try and walk around it, you still couldn't do it. That's what I often found. Now, I'm sure there is a way to fix this, and I'm sure many of you guys that are watching this will figure that out, and they'll be able to tell me in the comments. But for the life of me, I couldn't figure out what to do, and I'd imagine that I'm not the only one. It's a tricky, challenging and yet quite tough game if you don't know what you're doing. That's the one thing I do have to be clear about here. It's not going to be for everybody, but it definitely appeals to a few, hence why I'm doing this, because I've had quite a few people over the last while reaching out, and sure, I said to myself, sure, I'll give it a go and see what happens. Now it does have some nice visuals, don't get me wrong. The level of detail is quite high, especially for a PlayStation game, considering it's more open world. But the pace of the game, as yes, it's a completely different style of game altogether. It's very, very slow. Everything has to build up in stages, and you have to be mindful, like I said, of everything that's going on, because you have to manage your team, you have to make the right decisions at the right time, because any of those things that don't work in sync will literally kill any progress that you're going to make. And if anything, it's going to set you backwards. The one thing I will say about the game that I do like is the dynamic weather effects, because it does change throughout the race. Like you could have the sun splitting the trees and it looks pleasant and it's nice and it looks mild, and it can turn on a dime where it can go really dark, gloomy, dreary, and then you could literally be caught in the middle of a storm where the wind just blows you literally everywhere and even puts you back nearly to the start, and you can't really do anything about it. Now, to be fair, when I spent the time playing the game, because at different points when the camera moves around, when you're trying to do different moves or you're trying to order up different objectives to people, and you can kind of get a glimpse of where your opponents are, but the weather doesn't seem to affect them as much as it does with you. Now that's what I found. Now I could be wrong, but again, I'm a novice playing this, so I don't really understand what's going on. Up until recently I never even knew that this game even existed, but at the same time I can admire and respect what it's trying to do. It's trying to replicate a unique sport that many people don't know about, but it is popular in certain areas of the world, and there obviously is a unique following based off of that. And the fact is that even more people are playing the game now and getting more familiar with it just shows the unique nature of the PlayStation itself. Yes, it won't be for everybody, like I said, but it does appeal to those that are fans of the sport. But what's truly astounding is that the console, even for its time, was producing games that were leaps and bounds beyond anything else that was out there. You didn't just have your mainstream games, you were seeing developers and teams come together and taking risks, trying something completely different. Like, in the grand scale of things, you look at the majority of games being released today, you'll never see stuff like this being released in the mainstream media anymore. People won't take the chance because they probably know themselves that they won't make any sales. But during the PlayStation era, and even with the PS2, developers weren't afraid to take those risks. If someone had an idea, or if there was a fan of a unique sport or a unique trait or even a niche, there's a chance there was a game made around it in some shape or form. And that's why it is my favourite console, because the wealth of experiences that you can have on the system are truly astounding. The fact is that it has thousands of games. Even with the PlayStation 2 itself has the same kind of concept. A lot of experimental titles, a lot of very unique, rare and obscure titles. Stuff that you really wouldn't see today and you'll probably never see again. But even after spending years of playing games on the console, I'm still finding new experiences all the time, especially with a lot of these games from other regions. It's quite crazy what's out there, and I can guarantee you it's going to be a long time before I ever get round to playing pretty much every game that's on the system. There's a lot there, and this is just one of those interesting games. Yes, I found it to be tough, but there are those out there that I know will like it. If you're a fan of the sport, yeah, give it a go. It is slow, it can be sluggish, it is clunky with the controls that I found, but again, it's like everything else. Patience, practice, time. You'll learn to finesse and understand really what the game's about. But if you do like water sports games, and especially rare games that were only released in Japan, no harm in giving this one a go. But stick around, because I will be trying to cover a lot more of these obscure games in the future, because let's just put it this way, there's a lot. But if you would like to see more of these water sports games that I have previously looked at on the channel, I have a playlist right here on screen that you can check out to see more of them in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.